Okay, let's get back to the next discussion topic. We are operating rider replacement, you'll have noticed, on 360 Speedway tonight. For the first time ever, only three of us are hosting the show. Simon Lambert and Carol Johnson working overtime, working extra hard to earn an even bigger fee, is what I've told them. So thanks to you guys for stepping in. Right, okay, we've just run the rule over the current standings in the Premiership. Let's now look at the Cab Direct Championship, which is a much more fluid picture, given there are 9 teams vying for jockeying for position. That maybe that's not much of a surprise. Right, okay, but I think there is a bit of a picture beginning to emerge in the Championship league table. I'll put that on screen in a second because I can't multitask. Simon, listen, I'm going to come to you first. I'm going to tackle the elephant in the room, Simon Lambert, because when we talk about the Championship playoff picture, Scunthorpe, your team, are not going to be featuring in it at all. And I think, listen, in all seriousness, by your own admission, Simon, the Scorpions have had a bit of a tough season. You've lost too many points at home, haven't been too successful on the roads, and unfortunately, you're nosediving down that Championship table, Simon.
Listen, mate, we've been beat at home too much. We've carried too many riders all season, me being a big part of that. The Kennedys started well, got in the team. It's just like a number on the back changes everything. Luke's just realised that the Championship's harder than he thinks. Maybe he's gone from reserved in the team. At home, very good. Away, still an apprentice, finding his feet, realising the trade. Very tough. Not a good year for Scunny, but we've got 2 meetings left. Home and away to Redcar. Scunny do normally go pretty well at Redcar, to be honest. So an upset could possibly be on the cards there, but that could be the difference, really, of us finishing wooden spoonists or Redcar not making the playoffs. Very tricky, it's going to be 2 competitive meetings, but still lots to race for.
Still lots to race for, and let's be thankful for exactly that. Carol, just I put on screen the current Championship league table standings, and Poole, the reigning champions, are still at the summit, but I'm delighted to say that Glasgow beginning to put a bit of pressure on them. There's only, I think that's 3 points that separate the sides. Glasgow currently have 3 meetings in hand. A couple of them will be at home, and Poole will be made to sweat to see if they're going to hang on to that top spot, Carol. And as I understand it, first pick in the playoffs in the Championship.
Yeah, I think we sort of said obviously they're going to be the top 2, whichever way round. As it's sort of working out, it's potentially going to be Glasgow. Sometimes, we've always said you want to finish top of the table. Again, with this, would you want to finish top there? Yeah, maybe. Obviously, it could potentially give you another local derby, I suppose, in the semi-finals if it works that way. Or even if it stays as it is. But I think Poole and Glasgow are the 2 that are going to head the table. For sure, but it's still close, isn't it? Even when you look down, right down to sixth place, it's still close.
Yep.
And like Simon said earlier, with Berwick bringing obviously Nick in, it's he's going to make a difference to them, take a few points off teams, so they could upset a few. But I think we looked at Edinburgh, probably the ones that would have slipped out, but I don't know. I think they've sort of kept themselves in there at the minute and doing a pretty good job. And I think that top 4 could be how it finishes. Really, for looking at the table.
I've said on 360 before, and I won't get any thanks for saying it again. But listen, I'm big enough to suggest that I might have been wrong. I did think that Edinburgh were punching above their weight to climb into the top 4 in the first place. But to your point, Carol, that they've been very, very resilient, and at this stage, with only 4 or 5 meetings for most clubs yet to complete, Edinburgh could very well hang in there. I think they've got home and away against Glasgow and Workington will be their final 4 fixtures if I'm not mistaken, and they don't have a bad record at Glasgow this season, and they go quite well at Workington as well. So the Monarchs will be hopeful of hanging in there. You've got, Simon, you know this better than anyone. You've got to win the points on the track. It's all very well looking at league tables and bits of paper and saying that team should beat that team, but you've got to do it. Point in case, Plymouth for the third time this season beat Poole Pirates over the weekend in a real back to the walls job for the Gladiators.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be honest, I can't actually see the league table because it's very blurry.
It's very small,
I can
I
see
know.
Poole and Glasgow, but I can't see from third down.
Yeah.
I think this is the wrong league table. I think this is the wrong league table. Listen, I'm going to cut.
That's the wrong
away
league.
from it.
You got Scunthorpe up in fourth. Simon,
That was probably from about May.
It was. Listen.
Simon was getting all excited there. He thought he was going to make the playoffs.
Simon knows he's done on the 29th of August, mate.
Can I just explain in my haste?
I think Edinburgh.
Sorry, I was going to say, in my haste to get the graphics ready for this episode, I think I've failed to upload the latest version, so apologies for that.
No, but I literally couldn't see it, honestly. But Edinburgh built a team similar to Scunny, to be fair. They went strong reserve and sort of mediocre riders in the middle, with no big out-and-out number one. Obviously Seji, very good round at Edinburgh, but they took a gamble on Palarava and Gran, and to be fair, they've both took off. I mean, obviously Palarava started the season absolutely like a train, didn't he? And the way the meetings went, the so many home, so many away, he lasted a lot longer at reserve. But Gran's been good value for money. They're always going to be thereabouts. Obviously, the pole left, they brought Tofty in. Obviously, he had a bit of a bad night Friday, but he redeemed himself at the Scunny. So, yeah, I think Edinburgh will sneak into the playoffs, I think. And I think maybe Redcar. I think it'll be Redcar, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Poole.
That's my prediction as well,
That's what
Simon.
I'm going to go with.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So, listen, I'm now looking
And
at some...
I don't really think it matters who finishes top, to be fair. I think the chances are you'll get Poole Glasgow final, maybe. But obviously, I would rather see a Redcar Edinburgh final, so somebody different wins it for a change.
Somebody different, yeah, I like it. Well, listen, I am looking at some...
Make you disgusted, Derek, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to disguise my disgusted look, Simon. I'm looking at some up-to-date figures, some up-to-date numbers. So Edinburgh have 4 meetings remaining, home and away against Glasgow and Workington respectively. Redcar have 5 meetings to complete, home against Plymouth, Scunthorpe and Workington, and away to Plymouth and Scunthorpe. Berwick, 4 meetings remaining, home and away against Plymouth and Workington. Workington have a mammoth 7 meetings yet to complete. They've yet to win on the road. They haven't won any points on the road, but they've still to face Berwick, Edinburgh and Glasgow at home, and they've still to visit each of Berwick, Edinburgh, Oxford and Redcar. And even just the number of fixtures coming at Workington over the next 3 or 4 weeks is going to be quite relentless for them. And the only other side who are still in the potential playoff zone are Oxford, who only have 3 meetings remaining, home to Poole and Workington and away to Glasgow. So I'm going to discount Oxford. I'm going to critically exclude Oxford from all considerations. I think it will be Poole, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Redcar. Simon, exactly what you said. I think that will be the top 4. Carol, what about psychology, Carol? Because we're talking about Glasgow, Poole being the top 2, potentially being the final. So much speedway to race before we get to the final. But Glasgow and Poole, I think, potentially are destined. In fact, Poole are going to meet either Glasgow or Edinburgh in the Knockout Cup semi-final. So Glasgow and Edinburgh complete their quarter-final tie this midweek, and the winner will face Poole. And facing Poole home and away, much closer to the playoff series itself, the playoffs themselves, gives a chance, doesn't it, Carol, to play with psychology and try and get some one-upmanship on your potential opponents.
100%, because like I said earlier, whoever comes out on top in that has the psychological advantage for the playoffs, especially if them two meet. If it was a Paul Glasgow final in both, whoever wins, the cup is then got that mindset of we've already beaten, once, we can do it again. But on the flip side of that, if you're the one who's been beaten, you're the ones that then want to, go out and win the playoffs. So it's a bit of both. It's, yes, you want to put a marker down. You want a big win at home. Whatever you want to do is you need a big win at home to really sort of set your stall out and go, right, massive win. It's hard for them to come back. If you're within a couple of points, it's on a knife edge, isn't it, straight away, and you've got to go away, with a couple of point advantage. It goes in one race, and then you're on the back foot. You don't want to be in that position. But you don't want to be in a position that you win 60-30 at Glasgow, having to go to Poole, and then think the job's done. Because that does happen, so you have to be in the same mindset. We want to go there and win as well. You might lose the meeting, but you might only lose it by 10 points. So happy days, you've won the cup, and the flip side of that then is you then got them in the playoffs if that's the case. And it certainly puts doubt into the losing team's mind for the playoffs. And it is big. And like I said earlier, Speedway's in 85% in the head. As we spoke when we spoke to Hans Nielsen the other day, when I asked him about how could he be so consistent with his gating for so many years. And his reply was, I just clear my head of everything, and I know my job. Yeah. And that's how you have to be in the same with the meeting. You just clear your head. First meeting's done. We go and win the second one. If we don't win that, then okay, we go and win the playoffs. You might end up like we did, and not winning any of them, the cup and the and the league. But it's that's just Speedway. But it'd be nice to, you just want to put one over on your opponents before you get to the playoffs.
So, Simon, you've seen it at first hand. You've seen it at close quarters all season long. How competitive has the championship been this year, Simon, in relation to recent seasons, for example?
I think it's always competitive. There's not an easy race. It doesn't matter who you're against, which team you're against. In no disrespect, but Carl will probably vouch for me on this. I think 2015, 16, when I was with Peterborough, your weaker teams were Plymouth. Do you know what I mean? They were just finding their feet, being sensible with the finances and resources, and if you didn't get a good score against them, that was your payday match. But now there's nothing like that. Obviously Ashton decided to give it up, and obviously the rules of British Speedway didn't really help. He was going for a torrid time, which I know myself how that feels, but with this rolling average rubbish, his average was increasing, not reducing, and that's where it was all wrong. They say you're only as good as your last race or as good as your last month, you could say. That should be your average, and that is that. To an extent, but obviously you signed the Dane, Mr. Nagel, whatever his name is. He's just got going good. So, every race is tough. It's thorough, and like we said earlier, we touched on the top league. I know for one, we have to race for every point. If we want paying, we race hard for every point. And the wise man, who's our other guest with us tonight, he always said 4 laps and 1 bend. You race to that line, and you have to earn them points. So it's good entertainment, the championship, because I think there's no real differences in class as such, if you get what I'm saying. Any of the 4 riders on the track can win, whereas I'm not saying they can't in the top league, but when you sort of watch your 2 rising stars against, say, Dan Bewley and Emil Saifutinov, you kind of got 2 racing 1. I'm more for the championship. It's hard fought. It's more passionate, I think.
Do you know, Simon, a 360 viewer, and apologies because the name currently escapes me, but suggested a future discussion topic, which I think we'll take him up on, which is maybe in coming weeks. We will talk about the prospect of going one big league, but the concern from this viewer was that should be done on the terms of the championship, right? We shouldn't disable and weaken and dilute the championship at the cost of shoring up the new look for one big league, if that's the route that British Speedway follows. And I think let's not do that discussion now, but just very briefly, Simon and Cara, I wouldn't mind your comments on exactly that. You know, the championship as a product is quite vibrant, it's quite varied, it's quite enjoyable. We wouldn't want to lose that in reshaping British Speedway, would we? Carol?
No, I've always said the championship was, I thought, British Speedway's best product. I've said that for many years. Obviously, the last couple of years, getting the top riders back into the Premiership, that's probably opened that gap up. But from competitiveness, having been in the position of being in both leagues, from my side of the fence and being in both leagues, the championship was certainly the product that you wanted to be in. It was so hard, and like Simon says, you race for every single point. And your reserves can beat your number ones. We've seen Chris Harris have bad starts and a reserve beat him. And that's how it is. And prime example, Simon, when he was riding for me, was at reserve. As soon as anybody got excluded in Heat 1, I knew this man had come in and go out and win Heat 1 for me. No hesitation. We're going, you're not going in, somebody's going off 15 metres. It was Simon straight in. That's the confidence that you had in your reserves, as Simon was at the time, to go out and win Heat 1 from the inside gate for us. No questions, Simon straight in. And he knew that as soon as there was a taper fence or anything like that, he was going to be in. His helmet was on. I didn't even have to ask him. His helmet colour was on. His helmet was on. His bike was warmed up. He was gone before I'd even had the word to speak to him. So I didn't have to encourage him. He knew what we wanted. And that's the good thing with the championship. Anybody can beat anybody. And okay, it happens at times in the Premiership, but it's not very often you're going to get your Rising Star pop out and beat your Doilies, your Emmels, your Bewleys. It doesn't happen. Or if it does, it's very, very rare. And I agree. I think the championship is the level that probably we need to be at to protect British Speedway, because we haven't got top British riders, have we, that are world-class riders, apart from obviously Robert and Dan and Ty, but two of them don't race currently in the top league. So we've got to protect the product that is the best for us at the minute. And I think protecting our own up-and-coming riders, the riders that we've got now that are established, is, for me, the way forward. You're not going to lose supporters by saying Dan Bewley's not riding this week, because the championship standard is fantastic racing. Even though I've not seen it for a few years, the racing is still good, and it's a cracking product.
Wholeheartedly agree. Wise words, Mr. Johnson. On that note, let's wrap up our current view of the championship chase. As we've mentioned, for the Premiership, we will regroup and keep an eye on all things championship as we close in on the playoffs. Apologies once again for my little graphical hiccup.